The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it Mondays here. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Justice Rhody is back from winter break. Hope you're doing okay. Hope you're... Well, I'll figure out where you're at with just your place on the Nebraska basketball bandwagon. We'll dive into that. It is playoff football. Playoff championship tonight. It is Ohio State. It is Notre Dame. And we're here for it. We'll chat about that. NFL weekend was glorious. Maybe not on your betting sheet, but some good football and snow football. How about that? A 2 for 2. Take your thoughts. Can dial us up at 489-1240. 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. Can stream us, and you're invited to do so. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Also, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. You can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Look who is back. Finally, some sanity. Tuck, we love you too. We'll get our starting 5 shout-outs going. And as always, reminder to take us with when it's convenient for you. The podcast there for you to download. Just search Hail Varsity Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or get the video version, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Guys, how we doing? How was the weekend? Loved me some football yesterday. Didn't hate the basketball game. Didn't like the result if you're a Nebraska fan, but better than what we have seen against Maryland. Justice, how was break? Good to have you back. You came back. We're placing bets. Did we run him off? Or was Justice going to find his way back to the studio for a second semester?
No, we picked our way back. Break was relaxing. Got to spend some good family time. Watched the little brother play basketball. Indulged in all of the college athletics. So relaxing break. Excited to be back for another term. All
right, Elijah, how was your Sunday? Your football?
Yeah, it's just cold.
Are you just
cold
beaten
weekend
down, brother? I mean, are you just like, man, no Denver football. Huskers lost again. I'm on this damn diet.
Yeah, there it is.
Right? The diet. You got the diet eyes.
It's the main thing. I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I know my roommate's got potato chips in the pantry and I know I can't have them. They're staring at me. He's got the Dots pretzels in there too.
No, that's crack.
Yeah, and have you seen the carbs on them? Ugh, you can't touch them. It's the worst. So I had decided, in order to help myself, I got the sugar-free, low-calorie barbecue sauce along with some little Smokies. So I think I can have 6 to 8 of those tonight, and that still will be fine for me. So I've made plans accordingly based on how the weekend went with how much I wanted to snack while watching football all weekend long. But yeah, as long as we make it through this cold snap here and get to some warm weather in the near future, it'll be okay. It's always just, diet combined with cold weather combined with the sloth. I don't know.
No, that's fine. I went to a steakhouse Saturday night. Met my brother, Uncle Mark, and Aunt Mel up there. And me and the bunny went. And then Junior wanted to tag along because of course, Dad's buying steak tonight. And in all honesty, it was good to spend time with him. And we just had a good time, man. We had a good time. So the thing that threw me for a curve, I got a text from my mom yesterday, and Joe Mama's down in Arizona where it's not -6. And she's like, well, how was it? And I kind of gave her a review. And more, I have problems buying steak at steakhouses just because I'm pretty proud of my own self. That being said, this place was really cool. And it was a wonderful atmosphere and a little mini road trip. It was in Ashland, so it was cool. And anyhow, she's like texting my brother and I in a group text, and she's like, well, you guys wouldn't let me buy dinner for you. I'm like, huh? Since when? Since when has that been the case? So apparently she tried to buy dinner for all of us Saturday night, but we never got the message. But I told her I'll be happy to go. I was like, well, Mark and I will be happy to go again Sunday. We'll let you take care of us then. But that made me smile. That was nice of her to suggest.
Justice, I know you're a bit of a foodie. Any good food over break?
Oh, there was lots. Mom really hooked us up. Bacon wrapped steaks. We got $5.99 each. Got the old filet mignons.
She made you pay for them?
No,
No, just a hell of a deal.
It was a heck of a deal. That's what, you got to express to the world when there's a bargain abound, So there was that. She made some good, beef stew, home cooking. Mama really fattened me up over break, got to say.
You're still like 2% body fat and 7 feet tall, so there's envy on this side of the glass.
No, I'm going to try to fatten Justice up for my Cornhusker State Games basketball team as well. That post presence.
You need an El Grande, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Let's get to some basketball. And Nebraska falls 69-66 to Maryland. And a lot of ways you can cut this, and I'm going to ask, where are you at on the bandwagon right now as a Nebraska basketball fan? I think we've all circled Wednesday as a make or break, and, just insert team name with preview. But that's really how far this thing has gotten away from even a month ago, where you felt with Nebraska basketball. You played St. Mary's well, you beat Creighton, you beat UCLA, and now you're getting into some of that thickness part of the schedule, and it's been rough. It's been tough. The Big Ten is not for the faint, and you saw that on full display even when Nebraska dropped their home game to Rutgers. You had some wow finals, be it Minnesota, Michigan, or even Northwestern and their buzzer beater against Maryland. So what Nebraska basketball team were you going to get yesterday morning as you're pouring a little extra shot of vodka to hang on for dear life in your Bloody Mary for tip-off? And Nebraska started awfully, throwing the ball around. It was not the start they needed, but they stabilized, and I like what Fred did with the bench. Not only the bench scoring 34-8, that was big time for Nebraska, but I just really like Morgan and his ability to play offense and just he's tough. He's a tough dude, and I like his toughness in the paint. I thought Ulis did a good job, 10 assists for him. Free throw shooting still, you only had 11 trips to the line, and I just mentioned two guys that were big time for you. Those are the two guys that struggled at the free throw line, figuratively speaking. But all that being said, Nebraska gets whacked from the three-point line again. Maryland shoots 5% better than they typically do. They hit 10 threes on you. On the other side of that, though, they're two studs, Queen and where's his name? Queen and the other dude. Sorry.
You talking Reese?
Yeah, Reese.
How did you forget Angel Reese's brother?
I know. That's what was going through my mind. Is Angel's Reese's brother. Angel's Reese's brother. Queen and Reese both go combined 4 for 12. They didn't have great games, but Kobe comes in and sticks you. So give and take there. But Nebraska had a chance to win it, or at least get into overtime with that 11-2 run, the final few minutes. So I loved the response. I didn't like the final possession. Today is, pardon my last possession. There's a lot of pardon talk today. Well, Nebraska needs a reprieve on the final 8 seconds. You had a timeout. You didn't use it. It was a cluster bleep and a bad shot.
And then you used your timeout at the wrong time because I think they missed the front end of their 1-and-1, and you could have really used a timeout on that rebound to get yourself something set up for a look after that. Was it going to go down with the full length of the court in a second and a half? Likely not, but you'd still like to have that timeout. What I'll say is I think that game was enough for Husker fans to at least keep them interested for now.
Keep them engaged.
Enough to keep the fan base engaged. Are they excited about Husker basketball right now? No, but are they going to keep watching? Yes, I think they saw enough yesterday to say, I can keep watching this basketball team. The concern becomes, does the team see it the same way? Does the team can they draw a bit of a moral victory from that and say, you know what, I know we're on a 4-game skid, but we're better than we have appeared in that 4-game skid, and we showed it on Sunday? Or is it the feeling of, dear God, even when we play a good game, we can't get a win, and the wheels may continue to fall off? That's the two sides of things. I think from a fan base point of view, you saw enough. From a team point of view, was that enough of a performance for the team to continue believing in themselves and to continue thinking, you know what, we are still an NCAA tournament team? Because when confidence goes away in basketball, things can get ugly fast.
Confidence, period. And I don't think they're, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they're at the point right now where it's frustration to go out there again and get on the court. I don't think they're there. I think they're probably ticked. They've been challenged. They responded. They didn't get the win, but at least they played in a tougher manner. And that's what I needed. That's what I needed to see with this team. What I also need to see is, Bryce he helped kind of lead him back with that mid-range game in that run. And I needed him to have the ball, and clearly Maryland's going to throw 48 defenders at him and try and get him to get the ball out of his hands. That happened, but there's just he is your dude. He's your shot maker. He needs to be the one that figures it out, finds a way, despite the defense he's going against, knowing that he's going to be the guy. I need Jawan Gary to start hitting some layups. Love the guy, love his heart, love his hustle. I need him to attack the rim with some authority, because what he's doing at the rim is not him. And Asijan and Sam, look, they've been playing all right. And with Maida, I like the turn. I like the ability to go to a guy like Morgan down low, and Burke also, is somebody that played pretty inspired, in my opinion, on Sunday. They just didn't get it done. And that is going to happen. You would have taken that effort, and I don't want to say outcome, but you would have taken that performance had you not misstepped against Rutgers, had you not misstepped against Iowa. Yep. And that's the problem, is 3 of your last 4 games have been one possessions. 3 of your last 4 games you've lost, and you've had 2 or 3 turnovers that kill you. You've had problems at the free throw line, and we're talking one possession games, and all of that adds up in one possession games.
And now I think we're at the point, I think that's enough to keep the Husker fan base involved, enough to keep them watching games. But you are at the point right now, in my opinion, of like, you're on a road trip and you're going to need a bathroom break, and you're starting to look at the road signs and be like, where's a convenient exit? What's going to be nice here? And hey, you never know. Maybe some good things happen and you can hold on to it for another 20,
just
25 miles. You can make it till March. But you are at that point.
Give me a bottle.
You're at like the point of like looking around and being like, all right, I like Love's. I don't quite like whatever. I just name dropped a gas station that does not pay a sponsorship, and I do apologize.
That's all right.
But like, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, I don't really like the bathrooms there. Maybe we could just get a rest stop. You're starting to evaluate your options of the right time to make your exit. That's where I think you're at with Husker basketball right now, where you look at the stretch that's coming up and you're like, I'm not ready to exit just yet, but I do want to have my options in place, and maybe you can turn your attention to baseball.
Let's get our shout-outs before we get to the phones. Arlo is in. Mr. Erickson, good to have you. NASCAR Eric checks in. Tuck is waiting for Trump to sign his pardon. That's pretty good, Tuck. Let me know what you're in for, bud. You got Uncle Larry that's in. Grateful Red is here. Checking in from Colorado. Anonymous says, at least we don't have big recruiting weekends in January anymore in 5-degree weather. Mike and Callie, hope you're doing okay. Steve is here, 3-putt in from Michigan. QB1 Ace checking in from Arkansas. And QB1 Ace is calling Ohio State by 18 tonight. Justin is here. Good to have you. Terry, what's going on, Terry? Good to have you check in. Brent with us as well. Game Dog says, what's up? And Brandon is here. All right. Brandon went 4 for 4 in his NFL gambling parlay. Well played, Brandon. Well played. Who's with us, Justice?
We have Steve from Lincoln.
Steve, go for it, bud. Thanks for calling.
Thank you, Elijah. This is Steve from Lincoln. First off, once again, your radio show, Hail Varsity, is indeed great, super, great insight, great facts, great guests. You guys rule the airwaves for Husker Sports. Thank you all. Thank you, Chris, Elijah. Shifting gears, I want to hear from Chris and Elijah, that being you guys. Talk to us Talk to us about that Notre Dame-Ohio State game tonight. What's your insight on it, Chris Elijah?
Steve, thanks for calling, man. Appreciate it. You know, I'm going for Notre Dame. I'm not going to commandeer any Irish gear, but I want Notre Dame to win. Sorry. I'm not chanting Big Ten, forgive me, with the, let's cheer for the conference. Nope, I'm cheering for Coach Freeman.
I probably am as well, but I am also.
You're going heart versus head, and your head says Ohio State's too good.
Who I'm rooting for and who I think is going to win, and everything in my head is telling me that Ohio State can hang on the lines of scrimmage. Like for Notre Dame to go win this football game, they're going to need to go rack up 200 yards on the ground.
Does Ohio State get into Michigan mode where we got to prove a point that we're the toughest team? Or do you just attack the edges and you've got no answer for their skill? And good night. So what Ohio State do you get? Do you get Ohio State that's just going to do them? And here's how we're going to attack and go win. You have a good secondary with the Irish. You've got a good pass rush. You've got an injured Irish offense that has been able to squeeze out just enough points in this run.
And it's funny. The way Notre Dame wins this football game is with Big Ten football. They got to win on special teams. They got to win the turnover margin, and they got to be dominant on the lines of scrimmage.
They got to out Big Ten the Big Ten.
Yep.
Love it. We'll check in with Tim Verghese inside Nebraska Rivals on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Hope you're well on Monday. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. Tim Verghese is in with Inside Nebraska Rivals.com. We'll get to more of our comments and shout-outs. If you have any recruiting questions, can fire those off as well. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Tim, how are we doing, man? Thanks for joining us. How's your weekend?
Hey, not too bad. Just trying to keep warm.
Yeah, right.
I do have to ask you, how tired are you of special teams after the past season for Nebraska, after that Chiefs-Texans game? You tired of special teams by now?
Yeah. I mean, again, I feel like it's one of those things that, just execute. I feel like we're at a point where it's just across the board. Like, this should be better. We should have more special teams coaches that are good at their jobs and understand, the importance of this. Like, we preach it from like Pee Wee football on how important of like an element of the game it is. And time again at the highest level, and obviously at the college level too, we just see these type of mistakes.
I want to get into some of the football, but special teams is maddening when it just goes awry, and it has been a bugaboo for Nebraska the last few years, probably post Pelini, if I'm just going to be real honest about things. Through different administrations. But I want to get your take on Hunter here, the transfer from Cal, the redshirt freshman. And I'm really excited as winter conditioning gets underway for Nebraska this week, and we look towards spring and the 105. Tim, spend a minute here on Hunter's skill set. I know Key's a big look. I know Gilmore's another name on top of the Florida duo. But talk to me about Hunter's skill set and just fit in the offense under Dana with Dylan, kind of that pairing.
Yeah, so, if you want to a comparison, I guess, to last year's team and just an easy way to think about it, Dane Keene is in a lot of ways very similar to Jamal Banks in that he's your steady, reliable receiver that's going to help you move the change, can catch across the middle of the field against the sideline, can at times threaten deep, but he's not a long speed guy. Mm-hmm. Now Isaiah Hunter, again, a comp here within the scheme, is more of that Isaiah Nair, stretch the field, big body, outside receiver with some long speed. I'll say this, more reliable hands than Nair, just off of what we saw at Cal this past season. And, a guy that more so than Nair can win in the short and intermediate levels of the field, can create after the catch. I think that's the yak ability, something that needs to improve, but he's got a natural combination of size, speed, and strength that I think is hard for any defender to kind of stick with one-on-one. You saw that this past year at Cal, going up and getting it. DBs can't really jump with him. And then, on deep, long developing routes, DBs at times can't keep up with him. He's not a There's explosiveness there, in and out of breaks, but you really see the speed come together when he's running deep. At the third and fourth level third level of the defense, like past the safeties, he really starts to separate 30, 40 yards downfield.
Tim, whenever you look at the current college football playoff teams, or I guess the teams that made deep runs this season, all of them had something of a game breaker offensively. Tyler Warren, Jeremiah Love, Jeremiah Smith. You could look at Abuka too for Ohio State. I mean, so many of these teams that made deep runs had that game breaker offensively. Do you see a game breaker offensively that Nebraska has on roster now?
Right now, I mean, like I could see hey, okay, if Emmett Johnson makes another jump, he can be that type of game breaker. I think, if you're looking at the receiver room, I think Hunter or Barney very much factor into that. Honestly, though, if Nebraska is going to take this step to being a playoff contender in year 3 or year 4, wherever that happens, if they want to make that jump, I think it's on Dylan. Like, I think that's the difference is compared to these other teams, you have a former 5-star quarterback that in the past has shown the ability to take over games and lead teams to victory at the high school level. If he can channel that and if he can get into that level of Dylan Raiola at some point at Nebraska, I think that's the game breaker you're really looking for.
Could Cortez Mills turn himself into a game breaker? I know you got to go see him down in Texas. Might be a lot to ask as a true freshman, but you saw Barney's impact and you think he's going to continue developing. Can Cortez Mills become that guy in your eyes?
Potentially down the line. The thing with Mills, I think, versus Barney is Barney is more of that gadget receiver, twitchy, can win at the second and third level, can kind of do some of these like shorter route type stuff. But the thing with Mills compared to Barney, Mills prides himself on his contested catch ability. Like, he's a guy that, hey, you get him these manufactured touches behind the line of scrimmage, you get him those jet sweeps, you get him on those mesh routes just crossing short, but you can also throw it up to him downfield. Like, he has the makings of a future wide receiver 1 in this offense. If he buys into the system, if he stays locked in, he's a guy that down the line has that game-breaking potential. It just probably won't be in year 1.
Tim, I want to get your thoughts on the Big Ten landscape, and what do you believe right now with the Big Ten as far as sustainability? We talk about Nebraska taking and making a step right for contention. We think Michigan is what? Where are they in this ladder? Right? Are they following the rung? Are they climbing back up top? 2 years now removed from a championship, or a year removed from the championship. What do you believe about Indiana and Illinois? Tell me about the middle class and teams trying to knock that door down to maybe challenge the Oregons, Ohio States, and Penn States.
Yeah, I think Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State are still the top tier. I think those 3 return as the top tier next season. Penn State, with as many returners, I think could have an Ohio State type run like Ohio State did this year. Behind them, I think Illinois is sustainable. I think the jury's out on Indiana just because they replaced so much. They were so old this year on both sides of the ball. They have to do so much work. I trust, that coaching staff down there to keep the train rolling, but they have lost some staffers. And they are replacing, some talent. So I think the jury's out on Indiana. I could see a fall back to earth, just in the 7-9 win type fall back to earth, not they're going to fall out of bowl eligibility or anything. But I do think, they recalibrate a little bit. I think next year's a bit of a reset for them. I think Illinois is sustainable. I think that's a legit program right now. I think they are right now kind of settling into that Bo Pelini Nebraska spot, in my opinion, where, hey, they might be 9-10 wins, in the right year can make a run. I think they're in that type of position with some of the returners they have next year. Michigan, I don't know. I think, obviously Bryce Underwood, and to me, I think Bryce Underwood's a more talented quarterback than even Dylan Raiola and some of these other freshmen we've seen take over college football recently. I think Bryce is one of the more talented quarterbacks we've seen from the high school ranks in a while. I think since Quinn, if you're just talking about straight talent at the high school level, ultimately it depends on how they surround him with talent. I think you look at the Michigan roster this year and you see a lot of similarities to Nebraska's roster last year, in the sense that, okay, hey, I think they're going to go year 1 and realize, oh, we need to improve our wide receiver room a whole lot, real fast to keep Bryce happy. I think that's going to be the case for them. But defensively, I still expect them to be sound. I think year one, I think is going to be more of like a, hey, let's get the foundation set for the Underwood era. I think 7 to 9 wins should be like expected. I think year 2, year 3, I think they are poised to make like another run, like a serious run, especially with the way they're recruiting right now. I think they've ponied up from an NIL standpoint, and I think Sharon Moore is really selling the vision of that program pretty well.
Tim, to college football playoff we go, national championship game tonight. To me, head tells me Ohio State, heart tells me Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on tonight's game and who ends up getting it done? And I guess we all have kind of agreed Ohio State is the favorite for a reason. Your thoughts on how Notre Dame can get it done?
Yeah, Notre Dame, obviously, Ohio State obviously feels like the favorite just because, from a talent perspective on both sides of the ball, it is somewhat overwhelming. And the reason we had concern and doubts about it is we just hadn't seen them win these type of games. We didn't see it until this year. Then we saw them beat Oregon. Then we saw them beat Texas last week. And the way they've done these last two, it's kind of answered whatever questions I had about Ryan Day and his ability to get it done in these moments. Like, he's answered whatever qualms I had about him. Listen, I'll be ready to get the jokes fired up again if he falls flat again today. But I do think he's figured out how to get his team up for those big moments. I think they're at a level right now where, hey, this is the type of game where, Notre Dame really misses Benjamin Morrison, and they really miss some of the injuries they have on both sides of the ball. Like, this is the type of game you want to be fully healthy for. If it happens for Notre Dame, it's because this is they pound them they drag them into the deep water like they have the last 2 weeks. Make them play a physical game, keep it close late, give yourself a chance, hope you have a healthier Jeremiah Love, and just dominate time of possession, because we know this Ohio State team can score quickly. But if you get them into a situation where it's close late and you force them to kind of second guess, even last week that happened a little bit, where you force them to second guess, and ultimately it forced Texas to make a mistake late. It wasn't like, Ohio State came through. Obviously, incredible play by Jack Sawyer late there, but it's not like Ohio State, came from behind and won this game or buckled up and found it in them. It was just one 5-star player making a 5-star play. I think if Notre Dame's going to win this game or have a chance in this game, it's keep it close till the very end and just hope Ohio State makes a mistake and kind of falls back into the old habits they have under Ryan Day in these late game situations.
Tim Verghese with us, Hail Varsity Radio, inside Nebraska, Rivals.com. Tim will wind it down about 2 minutes here. Nebraska coaches and assistants on the road checking in with some kids on the road here. You tweeted out, retweeted C.J. Brada getting the old visit, saying we'll see you in April. But overall, Nebraska, how are things trending here as we're not far away from, what usually was the recruiting Super Bowl and that original signing day? How are things looking for Nebraska?
Yeah, obviously books kind of closed on 2025. You're turning ahead to 2026. They have their first or an elite junior day here on Feb 1st, which I think next week we'll have some more names to talk about. Right now, we've got a handful of names currently interested in coming to Nebraska or on the list. Others expressing their interest, still working to get final, flights and things finalized. But I think next week I'll have a little more names to give you in terms of who's coming. But they're really starting to set up, I think, the board for 2026. I think the new staffers are getting settled in. I think the big development over the last week, Terry Braden, the new defensive line coach, he's still with the Chiefs for their playoff run, but he's been making offers on the road in terms of just calling guys and letting it know that he's going to be in touch and helping out in that sense. And then you've got the other staffers. Aston Williams is on the road. John Butler's obviously making the rounds as well. And so you're starting to see kind of the board come together. I think the deep defensive backboard and wide receiver board have grown the most over the last couple of days. Defensive line board has as well. I think Nebraska's taking some swings. They're at a point right now where they're just taking swings, in my opinion. And that's the biggest thing, is getting yourself involved with some of these bigger names and see which ones are interested, see which ones are not, and then organize accordingly. Tim, have yourself a good rest of the Monday. Thanks for the time, bud. Yeah, you too. Appreciate y'all. All right, there he is. Tim Verghese with us here on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. Open phones here till 5, 489-1240. Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, going to be with us Monday with Charlie. We'll talk with Coach here about 5 after 5. Jay Moore also joins us in hour 2. Thoughts on the playoff title game tonight? I keep wanting to say Bama, Georgia. I should put a shock collar on myself, and every time I think that, hit the button.
Did you see the guy who called into C-SPAN today saying he wanted Trump to comment on
Mr. President, why didn't Roll Tide get in? Well, and I can just hear President-elect Trump going off on what kind of team loses on the road to Vanderbilt, or what kind of team loses on the road to a 6-5 Oklahoma team by a lot. So
only puts up 3 points.
Yeah, I mean that's just you can't swing that way wildly. Game Dog says rumor mill is the refs have already called a personal foul on the Bills' defense. That's funny. That is good. Brandon says, give him the Chiefs and Washington. Book it. I think that's where I want to be. Give me Daniels. Give me Mahomes. Phil checking in as well. Tim is here, and also more from you. Cliff checking in from Florida. Cliff, send some of that weather this way. Red Wine says Notre Dame should win, then join the Big Ten, adding $10 million a year to Nebraska. I'm sure that's in their mind.
No, the Notre Dame,
they got to keep all 20.
Yeah, this entire season has been the perfect reason of why they will never join a conference.
Yeah, and this just reinforces it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but we can kind of get into the playoffs here and talk a little ball that way. And, Notre Dame has been somebody I've kept an eye on after the Northern Illinois debacle. And we know what type of year Watts had as an All-American as a junior with kind of and I liken Watts to Mike Brown, just solid coverage and tackle guy, but was there, Johnny on the spot like Mike Brown was for Nebraska to force or get a turnover. And he was really that way with the Chicago Bears. If you look at their Super Bowl run that season with him and Urlacher. But Watts is really nice. The Rezac kids are awesome, and their work at Notre Dame as they continue to put time in and grind away is wonderful with the work they did at Westside with championships. So I'm going for the local dudes to win it. I don't dislike Ohio State, and quite honestly, you look at the Ohio State that carved up Rutgers. Excuse me. Well, they would have. They carved up of Oregon, right? You look at the Ohio State that made plays and really made big plays against Texas to win and cover. And then I go back to us being in Columbus. And I kind of go, it makes me rethink and re-examine Nebraska. Like what was Nebraska in 2024, just a little bit, because you have 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go old Joe Montana and put a game-winning drive together. Defense played out of their mind. What you did to Ohio State, Nebraska, is what Michigan did to Ohio State. Ohio State didn't get to the Big Ten championship game, but yet they go down in the blink of an eye on a pick six at Penn State, and they win 20-13. So they don't have stage fright in tight games. They just seem to have stage fright against Michigan, trying to prove a point. And then I go back to Nebraska, and I look at Nebraska going, it was a wonderful moment in time where it was look ahead for Ohio State. It was PO'd Nebraska after Indiana. And on a normal Saturday, and this sounds like I'm taking things away from Nebraska. You got to play the game, and Nebraska played a really good football game that Saturday. But push comes to shove. Ohio State's probably a 3-touchdown favorite for a reason, and they escaped with their life at home. And I just wonder, moving forward, where Nebraska can go in those moments when you see them in 2025 with the game on the line offensively, and how Nebraska will measure up against a team that right now is going to possibly claim a second championship in a decade in Ohio State.
Well, I think the better question to have in back-to-back weeks is which performance was more indicative of the Nebraska we saw in 2024? Was it Indiana or was it Ohio State?
Well, and that's right. And you just put it perfectly, because that's where my mind wanders. And then you also got the UCLA Nebraska. Okay. You also got the Colorado Nebraska. And then you got the Boston College Nebraska.
Well, and whenever you have...
And you got the Iowa Nebraska. You had such a roller coaster here.
Well, when you have wildly different results such as that, it makes you think it's not a talent thing, right?
Oh.
It makes you think it's a coaching and execution, which kind of goes hand in hand. Like Nebraska's got the talent, but the execution wasn't always there from that talent, and the proper coaching and preparation wasn't always there for that talent either. It's kind of my thought in 2024. And have you brought in better talent, more experienced talent? Yeah, sure. You brought in different coaches that you would hope at a bare minimum can be better than what you saw this past year.
Let's just call it what it is. You brought in better coaches to coordinate. Well, and that's a hard take right now with what Tony White's done, but maybe you brought in a more experienced coach, and what I mean by that is you got a guy coming from the NFL that's seen a bunch of things. And Tony White's awesome. I mean, I hope he does really well at Florida State, because Nebraska's defense wasn't the problem the last 2 years. Offensively is the big upgrade here.
Yeah. I don't know. It also kind of shows, though, the gulf between where Nebraska is and where Nebraska needs to be. I know I just said it wasn't a talent thing.
If Ohio State can play like that, and a lot of it was Nebraska's doing on defense, but still, if Ohio State plays like that and they still win,
shows you where
you can play a really C+ ball game and still survive. That didn't happen unless you're loaded.
That's a C- performance from Ohio State, whereas Nebraska came in and played at an A-. So there is still that gulf, but you can see that Nebraska, that the talent is more. I mean, Ohio State circa 2015 up until 2020, 2021, because they did it in 2022, could come in and have a D performance against Nebraska, and it wouldn't matter. They would still win by 4 touchdowns. So I think you can kind of see the progress in that way, especially with Ohio State playing in the national championship game this year. And there were some Ohio State teams through those years that did not play in the national championship game that Nebraska
ran into Clemson.
They got the brakes beaten off of them by those Ohio State teams. So it does show you the upward trajectory of Nebraska, but I think it also shows you there is still that gulf.
No, and listen, you've been very active with talent acquisition, and time will tell if some of these guys you brought in will be able to make secondaries at USC or Penn State or Ohio State or Oregon, or go down the list of teams you need to beat to be in position for the postseason. If you can make their life a living hell for 4 quarters with a good offensive line, a balanced offense, and weapons for your 5-star to get him the football. And you flip it around and you got a defense that's aggressive, that's multiple in a good way, and can tackle and can take the football away. So talent wins, but you got to direct that talent. We'll wind down hour 1 on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, we are 10 minutes away from Mr. Black Shirt Charlie McBride. Excited for Coach. He'll be at the Outland Awards dinner this week, as he is getting the Tom Osborne Legacy Award, and that's awesome. A lot of former coaches, not just Nebraska assistants, have received that award, and couldn't happen to a better coach, better dude, and excited for Coach. Coach is going to bring warm weather back with him on for the Outlands, we hope, and see how it goes there. 489-1240, 489-1240, or 800-825-5865 to get in and be a part of the show. Any questions you want to get into Uncle Charlie, you do it. Just get into the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube, where you can log on, like, and subscribe. Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Watch the show that way. Throw in a question for Uncle Charlie, and can email as well. Chris@hailvarsity.com. Reminder to get buckled up. Game preparation and repetition predict success and winning. Drivers and vehicle passengers who always use their seatbelt will increase their survival chances if a crash should happen. Make it click, a message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. It's kind of weird, man. Usually I'm waiting on playoff games to kick off at 8 or 8:30, but with 6:45 tonight for kickoff between the Irish and Ohio State.
That sucks. I'm still going to be here.
Well, you have your phone. You'll be able to watch.
Yeah, that being said, why are we doing this on a Monday?
Well,
can we not do a Friday night? Saturday night?
I think Saturday night would have been.
But I know they got
incredible.
NFL playoffs, so you don't want to go up against that.
That's fair.
Can we not do a Monday night? I don't know.
It's always kind of been Monday night, though.
Yeah, why?
Because it's open. You don't want to take on the NFL monster. I am surprised.
That's why I look at Friday night if I'm college football playoffs.
I am kind of surprised from a TV number that Penn State Notre Dame didn't do better numbers, but it was a Friday night. I guess.
There's less things for people to go do and not watch the playoff on a Monday. I understand that, but it's also a school/work night. Thank God. Hey, for the kids of Lincoln,
well, it's not a school night anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say for the kids of Lincoln, they can stay up and watch.
LPS has said in no school tomorrow because of the wind chill and the winter temp advisory.
Well, and it's been a couple straight years now, too, of I guess the one exception being that TCU year where they got absolutely spanked.
2 years ago.
But that game being the exception, all the other games have been close to 4 hours with the national championship game because they squeeze in as many commercial breaks as they can. They have the slightly longer halftime, if I remember correctly, and you're getting up at like 3 hours, 45 minutes, 4 hours the past couple years. You had the Bama and Ohio State game back in, I think that was 2020.
COVID year.
The COVID year that it was, Bama and Ohio State both put up a lot of points in that first half. Or am I thinking Clemson? Which game am I thinking of?
The Clemson game, I think that was 18, where it was like a 45-42 shootout.
Yeah, I am thinking of the 2020 season, 2021 national championship game, 52-24 Bama over Ohio State. And I'm pretty sure that game was north of 4 hours.
Yeah, because Devontae Smith set the record for most receiving yards in a first half.
Yeah, that game was ridiculous. I think it was like 2.5 hour first half.
That hurts your draft stock.
I mean, that guy won the Heisman, so I don't know how much it hurts it.
Are you worried about Philly going to the NFL here for a second with Jalen? I mean, he is beat to hell. Is one-dimensional on offense, and it didn't matter. Saquon had his closing moment, 78 yards in the snow.
Did you see Jalen Hurts postgame? He was talking like he had some sort of painkiller in his system.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, between the knee and just getting wrecked by the Rams' defensive line. Wow. Coach McBride's next.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody back from winter break, ready to matriculate a second semester at Nebraska. We say hi to Mr. Blackshirt. It's a Monday with Charlie. Coach Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, thanks for the time. How we doing? Coach, how are we? Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Well, I'm glad I can do it. It's getting cold here, and it's supposed to be 9 below tomorrow, so we're getting ready.
Well, I'm not trying to have a contest with you, but it's going to be 19.
There.
It's going to be 19 below tonight. Here.
God, I'll tell you what. We're only going to have 3 days of this. I'm going to Omaha.
I know.
In the morning at 5 o'clock or something, and in the morning we're leaving here at 5 in the morning and going on an airplane, and they got a few things I guess I got to do. I don't know what they are tomorrow, but do some whatever. Probably read books to some kids.
Well, I mean, I would have loved that as a elementary student, Coach Charlie and story time. I mean, that would have made my day after recess, man.
Does Coach Charlie bring the motivator for any kids that aren't paying attention to the book?
Hey, just think. Let's just think about this. If you were born in 2000 and it's 2025, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you say, who in the hell is Charlie McBride? Anything over 25, right?
Well, Coach, I was born in 1999. I'm 25 years old, and I'm well aware of Charlie McBride.
And he was well aware of you before he started working.
Well, I was hiding in the weeds.
I love it, Coach. Let's talk about Wednesday. You're getting the Tom Osborne Legacy Award at the Outland Trophy Award Dinner in Omaha. And it's the 14th annual Tom Osborne Legacy Award. And it's going to be great to have you back in Nebraska. You pretty excited, aside from the 5 a.m. flight?
Well, it's a nice thing to think, that Tom thought, to do that. I mean, I'm the only guy left alive, I think, except for George. But I'm just kidding. I just, I'm really thankful that, once you go, you go. And, to have people think about you and appreciate what you did for them. I did a lot of things that extra work that he probably doesn't even know about. And, but that's not, that's not part of it. But it's just the fact that, I stayed there a long time and it meant something to me. And I stayed there because a lot of it had to do with my children. I wanted them to say they were from Lincoln. And, that's kind of crazy because a lot of guys have 15 jobs, but you can't imagine what happened, what their kids go through.
Sure. Coach, a lot of players have reflected about being able to play for you, and that's the Jason Peters, the Grant Wistroms, and we talk to those guys quite a bit from time to time, and they always smile. John Perella, Eddie Stewart. I mean, there's so many, Mike Brown. There's so many guys that played for you that we've come across that just really appreciated what you did for them.
Well, and the funny thing is, they're not players; they're friends now. I mean, they're like, and it's a whole different deal. And I know Jared Tomich and I gotten really close, and he doesn't live far from here, but he's the thing you have to do is keep them away because they want to do everything and help you out and do that. And I don't want those kids to do that. They got their own lives to live, And but I talked to Jason, and in fact, I owe Grant a phone call. I've been delinquent there, but and then Charlie is. On the soccer team.
Right, yeah.
And so, that'll draw us into town.
That's
so,
good.
Yeah. But, we had a chance to get down there this year a little bit at his house, not his house, but down in Springfield and say hello to him and that. And, it was nice. Some of those kids, they'll be part of you. You spend 4 years with them, you put everything into them, and they give you everything they got. It's hard to, just sweep them away.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Charlie McBride's with us.
Some kids you stay close to. Some kids, you're still friends. I mean, you know how close you are, and I'm sitting at the Illinois game with Jared a couple of years ago down at Illinois, and all of a sudden there's Nate Turner and Toby Wright sitting down next to me. So it was good.
It's Charlie McBride with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. And Charlie, News of the day today is the College Football Playoff National Championship game coming up tonight. You coached in your fair share of title games. I know it was a little bit different back then, but still, you knew the implication going in. Both these teams tonight know the implication. Just want to get your thoughts. What gets it done in games such as this? Notre Dame might pride themselves on being a little bit more physical. I think their defense first. Ohio State, though, they got a great defense, and they got skill players everywhere offensively. Just want to get your thoughts on how it goes tonight and what some keys are to victory in a game such as this.
Well, a game like that is pretty hard to it's hard to figure out because both teams are good. And you don't have to worry about whether they're going to give you a good game. You know, sometimes you play some people you don't know what to expect. But you know what to expect in this game, and any playoff game you would. I mean, it's that. But I think that one of the things is it seems to me that a lot of times, you know, even number right now probably is the person that's supposed to win the game does not. So, you know, I understand that, of course, you know, Ohio State's ahead, and that's understandable. But again, I think they're 8th, and Notre Dame is rated 7th, so that's kind of weird, you know, and so that it tells the people that vote for that something's wrong. when the guy they're betting on the guy that's 7 and 8 is the team that might be the winner. You know, it doesn't fit. But again, that's the part of it that's fun. I mean, that's the part of it for everybody that's fun. You know, guessing and talking about it and arguing about it and so forth. And I have quite a few Notre Dame people around here, so I don't keep my mouth shut again. And I don't say anything. In my heart, I want the Big Ten to win, but it won't bother me one way or the other. It's important, but it is for those kids. I mean, that was everything, to me. I mean, that was your money there, when you could see them win a national championship and be there and see the how they feel and stuff like that.
Coach, you're close with Max Bola, the Bola family, and he's the old leather helmet from Michigan State during some of those great teams. He's now coaching for Notre Dame and Coach Freeman. He's their linebacker coach, so you've got a Notre Dame connection there a little bit, don't you?
Yeah, well, a little, but during the season, there's one thing that I'd appreciate is if you could do your work.
Right.
You get on the phone and I can talk for hours and I get talking, and so I don't get talk to these kids much during the season. Sure. I try to get in touch with them this summer and things like that, and in the past I've been at camps with them, and and now most of them are gone. A lot of them are gone, and so it was a funny thing. We Mariucci, the guy, he was a graduate assistant at Northern Michigan when I started camp up there with those guys.
Wow.
And so, that kind of tells you something. And we had, a lot of pro players, a lot of pro coaches, and a lot of college coaches, for that matter, helping that camp. It was a really, really quite a camp. And, it was one of those deals where offense was coaching and defense was on the golf course, and then they switch in the afternoon, and the other guys were on the golf course, and the team, so they had offense and defense morning and night, and the opposite was out playing golf. It was a lot of fun, or fishing. We were fishing all the time because we had the kids, and that's what they wanted to do, so that's what we did.
Coach, you kind of laid out in Notre Dame and Ohio State that when you watch this Notre Dame defense, do they have enough up front to get after the Ohio State quarterback and more importantly, stop the Ohio State run game because of how dangerous that Ohio State receiving core is? Do the Irish have enough to get it done tonight with the offense being maybe a little bit more limited, that side of the football for Notre Dame?
Well, one thing is they got good enough speed. They got some good speed, and they're not neophytes playing linebacker and that. I mean, they're going to be there, and they are real good in the secondary. I mean, they got two corners that can play, and I'm sure they'll be playing on Sunday. So it's a darn, with the receivers, I look at the coaches. I think the receiver coach at Ohio State is probably as good as there is.
Big time.
And that's including pro ball. I mean, he's been special to those kids too. And, it's one of those things that they take their pride in. And, you hope that someday that, we used to be the I-back kind of the university and so forth and so on. But most of our I-backs we didn't even recruit, and Jarvis Wedline, and I think he came out of a construction job. And those kids like that, and some of those I am hip. His girlfriend sent him there. He didn't even play his senior year. His girlfriend sent him in a bus, and then he got over there, and nobody knew who he was or where to go, but then he hung in through the whole time, and they did it. So it was, it starts there, and when you get the Craigs and the Rasmans, and some of those kids, it's they're special.
Charlie, we got about 2 minutes left here. I do want to get a quick thought. For those that are still undecided on their allegiance tonight between Ohio State and Notre Dame, is it okay to cheer for conference affiliations?
Yeah, here's the deal. In my heart, I really would like to see the underdog win, and that would be Notre Dame. But here's the thing. When you're a coach, you realize what these players put into it, and you don't like taking sides.
Right.
Just because how hard both teams had worked, and that's what you expected out of your players, and that's what they expect out of theirs. And so it's kind of a fun thing just to watch it and just being in it. I don't know how much fun it is, but it's really it's a pressure job until you get till the ball's kicked off, and then it's fun. It takes all the pressure off you, and just do the best you can.
We've got a question into the stream from QB1 Ace, Coach McBride. We do the old Ask Charlie. And he's asking a favorite. He says, ask Charlie who is the best player he coached at each level. Your best D-line, your best linebacker, your best defensive back.
60 seconds.
And if you want to say pass, I get it too, because it's like asking your favorite kid.
Well, I don't think a lot of guys that remember the guy that was the kid that he learned so fast, and he played so hard, and he wasn't a big time Sunday player as Rob Stuckey.
Really?
And
right.
Yeah. He was a mad motor scooter now. And, he was. I'm telling you, he was a kid that was a brain in school, and when he put on the pads, he was a different person. And I think if you look at guys, I think there were kids. Oh God, so many of them. The Peter brothers, and there's just thousands. There's 1,000 guys that you could name. But it's Mike Murray is a special kid because look at the size of him, and nobody even offered him a Division III scholarship, and he walked on. and he ended up being our starter for 2 years. And so, if you get kids like that, that's when that's when you really feel good.
I like it. Coach, enjoy Omaha. Bring that warm weather, and we'll talk to you next week, all right?
Okay, see if you can get down there. And, I don't raise it like I used to, but I'm dangerous.
I know. We'll be seeing you, Coach. Appreciate you.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Bye now.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. Blackshirt Hour continues. Hail Varsity. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody is back from winter break. Jay Moore is sitting/standing by. Can watch this, and the stream is always Hail Varsity YouTube channel at JMoore44, where you find him on Twitter. Big Red Wrap-Up. Jay, as we get deeper into the NFL postseason, college football playoff tonight, just a few more ball games, my friend, and then it's, dare I say, withdrawal. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm. I'm doing well. Just got back from inside. Ain't nice outside, I know that. A little too cold out there right now. But ready for the game tonight. Ready for some, enjoy these last few weeks of football. But yeah, then you get to that kind of, once you get to February, hopefully you get enough good basketball around here to give you something to look forward to. At least you get to March and get better weather and March Madness. But yeah, it's just that's that time of year where weather's crappy, football's almost over, and you just hope there's enough here to keep you interested, or you got to go book some travel to get somewhere warmer.
Well, staying interested is we've touched on, where are you at on the bandwagon for Nebraska basketball? Are you nearing the exit? Are you firmly planted on the bandwagon? Or are you about to get out of your seat and head towards that exit? What did you think of the Maryland performance, and where's Jay Moore at with the Husker basketball bandwagon?
Yeah, I'm always interested, and always will watch. I will say if it's, unfortunately, there's been 2 games this year where I've turned off in the second half just because of Purdue and Michigan State. And that can happen. It's basketball, and there's really good teams in the Big Ten, but yeah, the skid they're on here recently, it's been unfortunate. You'd like to, ideally, could have got 2 wins out of this. Obviously, the Iowa game and the Rutgers game being those. But yeah, they're just off. They're off right now. Everybody is shooting really, really well against Nebraska. Nebraska not scoring as well. Just sloppy and not making enough plays and take care of the ball in key moments of the game. You look at the Maryland game and how it ended, really just not the possessions. You weren't what you wanted. You sat on a timeout, would have liked to potentially have used that to get something called, whether it's Bryce or Connor Segan, whoever it is, to give you a chance to extend the game. But just too sloppy at times. Too many missed. A few missed layups, too many turnovers, and it happens. I hope we see. Hope they can learn something from this 4-game skid and get better from it. Obviously, who comes to town on Wednesday? Ohio State comes to town. USC comes to town, and they got to go to Wisconsin. So, they need to just get the mojo back. It's off. I'm still going to watch. I think there's still obviously a lot I'm not ready to give up on them yet. I think there's enough talent, and they can get hot. Every team. I mean, these last 4 games, teams have just shot the three so well against them. Almost 60 3-pointers made in these last 4 games against Nebraska. Now you can say that's defensive effort too, but you still got to make them. But I'm still in. I'm still on the bandwagon. I'm excited to see how they finish. See how they fight and compete and finish out this thing strong. Like I said, there's a lot to play for yet, and the last thing you want to do is give up. And then, those last 4 teams don't get to go to the Big Ten Conference Tournament at the end of the season. So there's I I think there's this, no matter what these last 4 games have been and how they ended up, I'm still excited to watch them play at 8:00 on Wednesday night against USC, then this weekend against Wisconsin, just to see the fight and to see if they can figure it out and give you something to look forward to watching in February and March.
And I know we were talking about this kind of same topic 2 months ago, Jay, with the Husker football team. Whenever the mojo starts to go awry and you hit that losing streak, just how hard is it to break out whenever it feels like things aren't going your way and you kind of get down on yourself?
It's tough. I think the good ones, you approach everything the same way, whether you're winning or losing. You never get too high and you never get too low. It's trusting the process. Now maybe through this skid you have we got to potentially you got to turn up a notch or do something maybe a little different, but I don't think it's any thing to hit the panic button yet. I don't think it's, you got to start making, wholesale changes or anything or trying to figure out something completely different to do. I just think you got to do some things a little differently situationally. Take care of the ball a little bit better, play a little, you can play a little bit better defense, rebound a little bit better. Just those little things, right? But I don't think it's never easy when you're going through these skids and to sit back and say, this is we'll figure it out. We'll work our way out of it. You kind of go to the worst place at possible at times and think, oh my gosh, are we ever going to win again? Am I ever, whatever it is, right? But I think the good ones can stay and even kill. Like I said, never get too high, never get too low. I hope they're there right now. But like I said, this getting a win on Wednesday night against USC would be huge for them. Obviously, the loss to Rutgers last week and first time in 20 games that just it didn't go your way, and you just got to somehow find a bounce back and get some momentum going again. We've seen this team when they get momentum and get hot, it's pretty darn good. But unfortunately, when it's bad, it goes bad too really quickly. So it hasn't been good as of late. So then you obviously get back on that winning side and just get back on that momentum, get that momentum back on your side rather quickly.
Jay Moore with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, last thought on basketball. Can this team kind of sustain the toughness factor that we saw? It was better and that needed to be because you've got some big dudes that Maryland had in the paint. Nebraska played tougher, and they didn't go out with a whimper. I mean, they put a nice 11-2 run together to at least get things tied up and be in position to steal a road win. It didn't go the way it needed to that last possession, but they went with some different folks. Ulis and Captain Morgan specifically were nice off the bench. I mean, that gives you a little bit of hope if you're a Nebraska basketball fan. And can this kind of be their new personality? What you saw on hand against Maryland, because you're going to have Illinois looming. Wisconsin's pretty gritty team, and they need more of that grit factor. Did you see enough Sunday to think, all right, they can carry this forward?
Oh, definitely. I think if the game on Sunday morning, if they would have lost by 20 plus, I'd be really concerned, and the outlook would not be so good. But the fact that they battled, and the fact that you utilized, you played guys a little more than normal, and maybe that's what you got to do going forward. You're gonna go with Mia or Andrew Morgan, where Andrew Morgan's more of an offensive threat than Mia, but Mia's bigger and a more physical presence inside. But other than alley-oop dunks and rebound putbacks, Mia can't do much. Doesn't really extend the guard, you don't have to guard him out there. Where like Rink Mass last year in that kind of similar spot, you had to respect him because he can shoot that 3-pointer, especially off the the high ball screens and in just a pick and pop scenarios. So that's got to be utilized. You just got to, guys with good energy. Sam Hoiberg, just fantastic grittiness, toughness, energy out there that will dive on the floor and get his hand in the passing lane and steal a bucket or two. He's actually shot it halfway decent here as of late. So, just got to kind of figure out what is the right mix. Maybe you got to tweak it. I think the Big Ten is such a unique situation because it's still one of the conferences to play a good amount of big men. You have your true kind of five, centers that are in the Big Ten, where the evolution of basketball seems like it's getting more and more away from that. So yeah, it's going to be fun to see just how that, do they go with that same role, or is it kind of the same five guys? And you just got to go with who's hot. And sometimes that's basketball too, as you see who's playing well, who gives you the best chance. But that's the unique thing Nebraska's had, maybe better than other years, is the depth. Guys coming off the bench, they're playing a bunch of guys right now. But the problem is other than Bryce getting going, that's just kind of been the Achilles heel. If Bryce is not on, this team just seems to struggle a little bit. And you'd like to have some other guys step up, like a Jawan Gary or a Connor Sejan. Ulis is not a scorer. He's not a shooter. Sam's really not that, doesn't give you that threat. That's kind of what they're missing from last year. Rank was able to stretch the floor and can get going. CJ Wilcher, had that ability to hit the three, and obviously Casey not being there. So you just got to find out, who can get hot and who can give you the best minutes to give this team the best opportunity to win. And we kind of saw a different mix that had some success on Sunday, and that gives you some positive thoughts, and hopefully those guys can kind of parlay that into more positive minutes in the future, because of that starting five. Not saying there's nothing. Those are all great players, but at sometimes you got to change some things up. Not drastically. You don't want to do anything too, but sometimes you got to see who can give you the best minutes, and whether, I know the plus minus, all those stats that the basketball has, who just gives you the best chance when they're out there. And it's not about scoring, but it's playing defense, rebounding, getting hands in the passing lane, playing aggressive, playing tough, doing the necessary things, having the good energy. So I'm sure they're figuring all that out right now and getting ready for USC on Wednesday. But they got some decisions to make, I think, to heading into this second half of the season.
Jay Moore with us here, Hail Varsity Radio, talking some Husker basketball, and we'll flip gears here, Jay, and talk some college football playoff before we talk about tonight's matchup of Ohio State and Notre Dame. I just want to get your thoughts, broadly speaking. Has the move from a 4-team playoff to a 12-team playoff been a success in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it has. That's been great. I know some of those initial games, the Penn State SMU game, the Clemson Texas game, I think people weren't too high on. I think it wasn't too bad of a game. I've loved it. I've loved everything about it. I hope it grows to 16 here in the near future, and I think it probably will. But I think it's been a huge success. The semifinals were great. Those teams that got the byes, it's just you'd think they're set up perfectly, and I think there will be some tweaking on the seeding going forward. But yeah, I've been happy with it, and you're never going to have perfect playoff games. You get some blowouts every now and then. NFL playoffs too. It just is going to happen, and that's the way football is. But I love the fact of seeing December games being played at home stadiums. And I wish they would get more of those implemented. I know the Bulls there's a lot of money involved and some history there, but that's pretty cool to see home football games being played at Notre Dame and Penn State and Texas and all those things that we just haven't seen that before. So that's what I love, is just getting that, just getting those extra games at those home fields that we just haven't had before. And I think that's what makes this playoff so special in his first year, just having that extra element to it.
Jay Bird, how do and I'm going to say because you and I have adopted them this playoff run. How do your Fighting Irish get it done? How do our Fighting Irish get it done tonight?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. Ohio State's hot, man.
Hates me for going for Notre Dame.
It's gonna be hard. The Ohio State's hot, man. They're, whether the explosiveness they have on the offense, and then their defense is starting to make plays. I think if they limit they're explosive wide receivers, and I think they gotta hope Ohio State turns it over. I think they can create some turnovers, get some help. Howard maybe doesn't take care of the football. I think you're going to see Notre Dame try to steal some possessions, special teams wise. You've seen that already in this playoff, and they did against Georgia. So I think they got to do some things, because I think head to head, Ohio State's a better football team. Mm-hmm. And if Ohio State keeps doing the things they're going to do, this could be, I see them winning by 14 plus points. So it's gonna be fun to see the battle. Love the matchup. Two great schools going head to head. I mean, you have a guy at Notre Dame that played at Ohio State, so that's a unique situation, and that's probably going to be discussed ad nauseum throughout the game. But yeah, I think only way Notre Dame I think Notre Dame's probably going to have to be 2+ in the turnover category to have a chance to win this football game. If not, I just think Ohio State's too powerful, and they're just kind of firing all cylinders right now.
I was thinking Notre Dame probably has to rack up, 150, 200 yards on the ground to have a chance, in addition to having the turnovers. They got to play the way that they play football, which is getting takeaways and being extremely physical, winning the lines of scrimmage, and it's a tough task against Ohio State. But, Jay, before we get you out of here, I do want to get your thoughts on the NFL playoff action we saw this weekend. Obviously, a great game last night between the Bills and the Ravens. That one was super fun. But I'm going to start out on Saturday. Your level of surprise. Washington now becomes the final NFC team not named the Dallas Cowboys to advance to an NFL or an NFC championship game since the year 2000, which is just an awesome stat for Cowboys fans. They haven't been to one since the turn of the millennium. But your level of surprise with what Washington pulled off against Detroit on Saturday night. Rookie quarterback headed off to the NFC championship game. Yeah,
I mean, a little surprised, but I kind of told people, with the injuries Detroit's had to that defense, and they've given up a lot of points at times in the second half of the season. And I know when they played the Bills put up a ton of yards against them. I kind of thought if they played a team with a competent offense, and I think what Washington's able to do with Jaden Daniels is, with his mobility, it would probably present some issues, and it did. But let's be honest, Detroit didn't take care of the football. They didn't help themselves out. You cannot turn over the ball that much and expect to win the playoffs. So, if I think Detroit takes care of the ball, I think they win, and they're in an NFC championship game, but they didn't take care of the ball. And then they gave Washington too many chances, and they have some weapons. And Quinn is a hell of a football coach, and I'm not surprised by any means. I don't know how many rookie quarterbacks have made it to the conference championship game or the league championship game, but it can't be that many. But I tell you what, it's going to be a third time that we've seen these teams play, right, between the Eagles and the Commanders. So not totally surprised, to answer your question. I don't think it was fluky whatsoever. I think Detroit, just with the injuries, was kind of playing with a little bit of fire, and they had to take care of the football, and they just gave the Commanders too many opportunities with that offense, and they couldn't hold up.
Who do you want to see in the Super Bowl?
Oh my God, I would love. Let's be honest, I do not want to see the Chiefs.
You and me both. Love you, Chiefs fans, but sorry.
Nothing against them. I just want to see something different.
Yep.
I would love, obviously, a Bills Commanders, Bills Eagles. I'd be totally fine with. I think the Bills Eagles would be a great Super Bowl. Two just crazy fan bases traveling down to the bayou, to the Big Easy, and I
want to see a parking lot fight between Philly fan and Bills fan.
Oh yeah, there would be. That's
the world doesn't need that.
Yeah, that's going to happen if that one way or the other.
They take care of one another. The world's a better place.
Yeah, those teams make it down there. But yeah, I want to see Buffalo. I think Buffalo is I think Josh Allen and what they got going they're a really, really good football team. Been close for so many years, especially against the Chiefs. I know they beat them early in the year up in Buffalo, but they got to go to Kansas City on this one. It's going to be tough, but I think they're going to get it done. But I think Philly's too much going to be a little too much for DC. Saquon's they're going, man. That team is really, really good. So I think it's going to be a Bills Eagles Super Bowl here in a few weeks.
Jay Moore with us. Big Red wrap up at JMoore44 on Twitter. Jay Bird will holler next week, and I promise you it'll be warmer.
That sounds good. We need some more warmer weather. I'm going crazy.
Good to spend time with Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore. Hail Varsity Radio Monday edition. We'll do our steak and a beer bet, Notre Dame. And yes, the Ohio State, 45 minutes away. Some questions that we didn't get to with Uncle Charlie, Coach McBride. He'll be in town for the Outland Award dinner. The Tom Osborne Legacy Award is going to Coach McBride. So that was quite funny when he said, well, me and George are the only two coaches still around to get it. Love Coach McBride with that humor. But Skylar wanted us to ask how excited Charlie is to be back on TikTok.
You never know.
Coach would crush on TikTok.
He would.
I love it. That's good. All right, steak and a beer bet time. Notre Dame or Ohio State next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Let's dive in. Let's predict. Get your scores in as well. And some of you have already laid the heat, taken the heat. And, man, Notre Dame, Ohio State. 8.5's the number. 45.5 the over-under. Well, call me crazy. Call me absolutely nuts, but I'm feeling like a 31-17 Ohio State win. And doing the quick math, that's just barely over the overs. So that's where I'm going. Give me the overs and give me the Buckeyes.
I'm leaning overs as well. Strong lean towards the Buckeyes. The big reason why, as I said earlier in the show, I think Notre Dame would have to put up 200 rushing yards, and they have two different freshmen starting along their offensive line. We're not 100% sure about the health of Jeremiah Love. He had that big old knee brace on against Penn State.
He can still hurdle.
He's still very talented, but could that affect things tonight? Potentially. I just think there's too much Ohio State. So I have the firm overs. I have firmer overs than you. I think this is a game that is still a good ball game at halftime. It's a good ball game into the third quarter. Ohio State pulls away into the third, into the fourth, and it's a 34-21 victory for the Buckeyes.
Just evaluating both sides, I think Marcus Freeman's got a very disciplined, physical team that, no matter what, he's a defensive guy. They're going to play good defensive football, right? And now the question is, what version of Chip Kelly play calling do we get for Ohio State? Is he going to try to prove a point where Notre Dame has a physical identity and he tries to go through them, or is he going to play?
He learned the hard way to not ever do that again.
Yeah, or is he going to play those five-star athletes he has? I think that we get a little bit of the first one through that first half and they keep it close, but then Ohio State busts it open. I like 31-24. Notre Dame still covers, and we take the over there.
Jeremiah Smith, what does he do? What does Ibuka do? What does Tate do to the Irish secondary? Or flip it around, what does the Irish secondary with that pass rush do? I think if Ohio State's going to win a championship and if Ohio State's going to cover the number, it is going to be Judkins and Henderson.
I think Will Howard with the legs might be a difference.
I think that's
tonight.
a good call, too. And listen, with the Irish, I don't hate Riley at all. I like his, Leonard just makes winning plays, okay? And he's done that for a lot of his time. The 1-2 punch for Notre Dame with Pierce and Love, and you can factor in Leonard as well is good. Greenhouse had a big game. Do you get Evans more involved? Fiazan? I hope it gets weird. What I mean by weird, I hope it's a weird, drama-filled situation like that Colorado-Notre Dame game where the Buffs won it. There was the Orange Bowl game in 1990. Ask Barney about it, where Raheem Ishmael returns it. There's a clip called Colorado wins a 10-9 game. Or even the Nebraska-Florida State game where it was an 18-16, just weird weird ball game, but you had some amazing performances, i.e. Trev Alberts kicking Charlie Ward's ass and Lawrence Phillips bursting on the scene in the second half.
If Notre Dame wins, it has to get real weird. Jay said it, multiple takeaways.
It's got to be. Yeah.
I think 200 rushing yards because you need to have probably 40 minutes of time of possession if you want to go win this. You got to go win special teams. Like, Notre Dame's got to check a lot of boxes. Could they do it? Maybe. Do I think they do? No.
If you see a man racing down O Street singing Cheer, Cheer, Old Notre Dame, that is Coach Hansen if they get it done tonight. Talk to you tomorrow at 4. Thanks.